what I like about working with Joyjit, he is able to curate hands that address specific areas that you want to address. I used it with Janice Molson before we played in the World Championships, and he was very effective. He gave us hands that addressed a specific problem and created an experience that was worthwhile and helpful. And the time is just used very efficiently. He's very effective, and I've enjoyed working with him.
Joyjit has been on our team for over 8 years. He served as a trainer, a coach, and a non-playing captain at times. We won 2 World Championships together. He's reliable, punctual, well-organized, and truly a joy to work with. Can't say enough good things.
I find him very helpful when I'm practicing with another professional. It's very easy to get targeted deals that are of high quality that allow you to practice specific areas of the bidding. It doesn't matter what it is, he's able to give you deals that are going to help your partnership grow. It's sort of a rapid fire way to learn without feeling overwhelmed by it because it's actually still fun. So I think I could recommend Joyjit to just about any skill level except a raw novice, and I think you're going to be well satisfied with your results.
For the last several years, my partner and I have been training with Joyjit. I would have no hesitation recommending Joyjit as a trainer. I think you'd be very surprised how quickly, when you're bidding these hands and they're all of the same type, weaknesses or gaps appear in your system, or lack of clarity about certain bids appear. This helps you identify these and also encourages you to do something about them. This is certainly, I think, the most valuable part of Joyjit's training.
I am joined today by Joyjit Sanjarma, my coach, coming to us from India. Welcome, Joyjit.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks for having me here.
So Joyjit is coach to the stars and has coached a lot of international teams. Tell us first, how did you learn bridge, Joyjit?
It's a long story. I mean, the earliest I can remember is way back, probably I was 3 or 4 years old. My dad used to play bridge at home. And I was, every Sunday in the morning time, they would have a game with the friends. I would sit in my dad's lap, and I still remember pointing out a card and say, "Oh, that looks like an A or a J." And my dad would say, "Stop telling me that." But that's the earliest memory that I have. But probably till I was 18, every Sunday at home, they used to have that game. I was allowed to sit at what is called kibitz, but I was never allowed to play. So that's how I learned bridge. The next part is an interesting one. Even in college, every Sunday in the newspaper, a bridge article used to come. And we had 6 different newspapers. So Sunday, religiously, I would go to my friends and collect all the different versions of the newspapers, come in, and the whole Sunday afternoon, I would read all those columns meticulously. So for next 4 years, every Sunday I would read, and that's how I learned bridge. Learned in the sense I had no idea about bidding conventions. All those columns were primarily about card play. So I would know how to execute a squeeze, but I never knew what a stamen was. So that started my bridge or whatever. I mean, that's like the learning process. I never played bridge till I went to US in my late 20s. I was working out there. So one of the days, I was in New Orleans. On the internet, I saw that there's a club nearby, Bridge Club. So I went and landed there. So I was kibitzing someone. And then suddenly in the middle of the game, one of the players had to rush back home. And they asked me, "Do you know?" I said, "Yeah." So I sat down. And then, as they say, the rest is history. So I got kind of hooked onto the game and kept on playing.
So from sitting on your dad's lap at 2 years old, you didn't actually play until you were in your late 20s?
That's true.
But you were reading the bridge column every Sunday.
Yes. But there was no place that I could know where bridge. I mean, in the college, no one used to play bridge. Okay. So there was nothing that I can say that I went and actually played bridge. So the short answer is no, I never played bridge. But this is a game, as I would say, every Sunday I would watch my dad and his friends play. So I knew how the games were, the rules of the games. They used to play what is called rubber bridge. So they would write the scores on both sides. So I knew the scoring. So all these things I knew, except that I never played bridge myself.
Did you ever read books?
So after I started playing, and the thing is, as I said, probably I knew to execute an end play, but I had no idea about bridge conventions. So right in the beginning, someone will say, okay, what do we play? So pick up the ACVL convention card, and I had no clue what was written out there. So I had to kind of get up to the speed. So I started buying bridge books to learn bidding and the bidding conventions. So that's how the journey started. I did find quite a lot. I think at some point of time I had some 50 odd books that every day before going off to sleep, I would read. So yes, I picked up quite a lot from the books. Another way that I learned is after those games out there. So I used to play like say twice or thrice a week. So the game used to be after my office time, 7:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. But a bunch of us, say 7 or 8 of us, after the game, we would go to a nearby Bennigan's. And these were before the hand record time. So we will go in circles and say, okay, what happened on board number 1? So all 7 of us would have our score sheets. So we'll say, okay, this was 4 spade making 5, 3 spade making 5, whatever. But there, on an average, out of 26 boards, some 6 to 7 interesting boards will come up. And then there was this one person, I still remember his name. His name was Aip. He had photographic memory. So he would remember each and every card of all the 26 deals. And then on those 6 or 7 hands, he will walk us through how it should have been played, how it went, what you should have done. So imagine twice a week, you are getting kind of an expert view on how these crucial hands should be played. And almost for a year, that was probably the best bridge learning as far as my life was concerned. I was lucky enough to have a group as well as someone who would photographically remember all those cards and explain it to us.
And then how did you get into coaching?
The amount of bridge that I could play was very limited. So over time, I would play with different partners. Within US, I used to move from cities to cities, so never I could really have a long-time partner. Somewhere around 2002, 2003, I moved back to India. Again, I was playing with different partners. One of the things that I very quickly realized is that there are so many expert standards of the same auction. So someone, I'm playing with Adam, and Adam's version is, this is a takeout double. I play with someone else. So this is a penalty double situation. Okay. So I kind of started getting confused around, is there a standard version of what a bid should mean? So this I always kind of struggled. Somewhere around 2016-17, I got a very unique opportunity. And a close friend of mine was going in to Seoul, Korea, representing India. And he said, Joy, would you like to come in as the NPC and the coach of the team? I said, sure. By that time, I had started working on certain standard questionnaires that 2 partners should kind of agree to, okay, that would form as a part of the discussion, if you can call it. So I kind of had probably 2 pages worth of questionnaires. I conducted a workshop with that 6-member team, and I gave those 2 pages of questions to all 6 of them. And I said, every time you and your partner, you answer the same, you will score 1 mark. It doesn't matter, even if you are right, but your partner replies it something differently, you don't get a mark. So the 3 pairs who were there, they all filled it up. Strangely, they realized none of the partnership had more than 50% score out there. And that kind of started a journey for me, okay, where the whole idea was it's more important to be on the same page than having a right. So whatever we call it as coaching, it kind of started from that need that can 2 partners have a same meaning of the same bid as much as possible. So very quickly, I transitioned into what I do nowadays, which is basically coaching partnership. My whole idea is it really doesn't matter whether you are right or your partner is right. As long as you both are on same page, that's the right answer. So that's how I kind of got into this entire aspect of coaching. I never really focused on like me telling 2 people, this is what you should do, which I would consider more around the teaching side. Okay. I always focused on, are you and your partner on the same page? Then I started working with few Indian teams out here. They liked my work. Then in 2018, Reese Milner and Hemant Lal's team, they came over to India to play one of the events out here, HCL. I had a discussion with them. I explained what I do. They wanted to give it a try. I still remember that the very first session was on multi-two diamond. So they wanted to practice multi-two diamond, and so they were practicing. They had one of those ACBL option 2, if I can call it. So I was giving them hands after hands, and they were bidding it. Then after finishing one hand, both of them would discuss. What I found was that it's more important that they both are on sync rather than me trying to say what my version is. So they liked the work, and after that, I started working with them, and slowly I started working with more and more people.
Just word of mouth.
Yes, this is another very important thing. I would generally not work with anyone who doesn't come to me through a reference. Okay. There are multiple reasons to it, but I have found that, the work that I do is such that, only a partnership is serious about improving their game. That's the only time it works for me. Yes, word of mouth, and that's what I even today believe in. The best way is when others tell about your work.
Yeah, and I am now a proselytizer. I'm a big fan. Greg and I started working with you a few months ago. You had been recommended by a few friends, Gavin and Dan Corbell. And yeah, I really like that it's not teaching. That, if we have a question like, what do you think, is the best agreement here? You're happy to give us the opinion, but mostly it's just facilitating discussion. And, we could do it on our own, but you come up with such great hands that give us this great range of things to discuss within a topic. Like, do you just have this incredible library of hands that you've put together over time?
Okay. So again, I go back to what really necessitated this entire thing, right? So let's say you and Greg, you come to me and I'll ask you, Adam, what do you really want to work on? So there are 2 or 3 things that I am looking for. Is Adam and Greg, are they looking of fine-tuning their system, or are they looking on getting into the in-depth of whatever they play? So which is basically in and around your system, your understanding of the system, and the completeness of the system. The second aspect is, even if you both remember it, at some point of time, there will be a judgment element. Okay. So let's take a simple, you open one note trump and the auction starts off with stable. And at some point of time, we realize that, okay, we have a 4-4 major fit. After we have found our major fit, then let's say the responder's hand is worth going to slam. Most of the system or the system discussions, they stop there, and then you start coming in with the philosophy. And okay, after you have found your fit, do you show your pattern? Do you show your control? What do you focus on? What is required to go further? So let's say we are in the slam zone. Okay, what is called a slam zone. How do you reach that slam? Okay, do you make qubits before that? What does a last train mean? Is it applicable out here? How do you explore slam, grand slam, or stopping at the 5 level? So this is kind of the type of requirements that a seasoned partnership, they don't get too many opportunities to practice that in real life. Because what really happens is, let's say you are going and playing a regional tournament for 4 days, right? Even if you are playing every day, you are playing, let's say 50, 52 hands per day. 80-85% of those will be routine hands. Out of the remaining 20%, let's say half of it will be some defensive problems. Defense guarding. Some of them will be declarer play problem. Hardly 3 to 4 hands come up which require partnership bidding at the in-depth level. So if you have played a tournament for 4 days, other than the known mistakes, digging into the system, there might be no more than 8 to 10 hands. Whereas there are quite extensive scenarios which does not come up often. But once they come up, unless the partnership is practiced, they will struggle. So the hands that I select is, okay, so Adam and Greg is practicing with me on, let's say, slam bidding. I will have a set of scenarios from whatever you play, and I will create hands pertaining to that scenario. Let's take a very simple, this thing. Slam bidding after partner has opened one major. I may have a fit, I may not have a fit. We might have a major fit, might have a minor fit. So I kind of create all these scenarios and I will have a 2-hour set with you. You do not know which one of them will produce slam, which one of them will not. All I am watching out for is when they are bidding, are they both in sync? So Adam made a 4-club bid. Adam meant it as a cue bid, whereas Greg might have meant it as, might be a last string or whatever it is applicable, right? And then suddenly 2 persons are out of sync because Adam is thinking I made my 4-club cue bid and is replying to the rest of it, whereas Greg has taken it as a last string and is bidding try. So I am watching out, are these 2 people in sync or not? So that's what typically, you have gone through it. So that's what typically is happening in a session, and how I select those hands are in generally in discussion with the partnership. What do you really want to practice? We want to practice slam bidding. Any specific areas? We wanted to practice uncontested slam bidding. So that's how I generally pick up the top.
And do you generate new hands for every session? Do you have a database? Do you go back through like real hands from World Championships? Like, where do the hands come from?
I have 2 sets of sources. One, over time, I have worked with a lot of different partnerships, right? I know that when 2 partnerships starts forming, there are certain areas that they will systematically discuss. Okay, so they will discuss. Let's take you and I are discussing about major O. So we will talk about different 4-card support. We will talk about 3-card support. We will generally talk about how does a 2/1 auction proceed and stuff like that. So based on my knowledge and understanding of working with different partnerships, I know that within one major, these are 5, 6, or 10 topics that are generally partnership discusses. I then look at, okay, these are the uncontested version. What happens when there is a contest? So based on all my knowledge till date, I've written programs which generates hands based on a specific type of criteria. So that is one set of hands, and these hands are primarily focused around your system improvement, understanding of the system. However, there is a second set of hands where I have over time, like say for example, BBO is a good source of data for me. Okay, so the hands that are there in BBO, like say, all the major NABC events, Spin Gold, Vanderbilt, Solowit, various WBF events, a lot of hands are there available in BBO. So I would download them from time to time and keep on adding to my entire database. What I really do is, let's say for example, we are talking about practicing slam bidding. So I will go to my database, I will scan through hands where, let's say, it was played amongst the top level, quarterfinal or better as far as these events are concerned, where slam was bid on one table and it was not bid. I'm not saying, not bid in the sense the slam might have been bid and they went down, or, it was 4 spade making 6, whereas the other table bid 6 spades and made 6. I have my own methods of picking out all these type of slam hands or slam decision hands. These mostly are not your system hands. These are mostly your judgment hands. Okay, so let's say for example, in one table they opened 3 club as a preempt on nothing but Jack 6 of club, favorable vulnerability, and a queen outside. Right now you are in a different type of problems. You sitting on the next hand, you might have a big hand. Okay, so lot of time a 3 club was bid on one table and you couldn't reach because they preempted you, whereas it was reached on the other table because it didn't come up. So stuff like this I will give it for partnership to practice, and then their judgment, their high level agreements, these are all tested. So basically it's a combination of things that I have scripted plus real life hands.
When a relatively new partnership comes to you, right? Very often you'll have like 2 experts who are going to play some event they've never played together. What are the topics that usually you need to cover with them?
I look at it from the 2 different kind of point of view. One is the skill level. Okay, so let's say 2 experts, 2 world class, or 2 advanced plus players. Okay, they coming together. So I look at their individual skill level. Are they more or less similar or not. The second thing that I look for is the length of their partnership. So if two experts have been playing together for long time, right? So I kind of have a mental map of what they are looking for. So one of the things is that, one of the Italian pairs whom I have worked with, they came to me, they have been playing together for 8-10 years. So they came to me and they said that, Joydeep, we are having trouble with our high level competitive options. So, after discussing with them, I realized they both are really very good players. They have very well documented system agreements, but they were struggling with their judgment aspect. So I'm just giving as one example versus, let's say, two expert players, they have decided to play 2 or 3 tournaments together, right? So in the first one, I would typically give hands which are mostly judgment oriented. Whereas in the second case, I will give hands which are more around style. Okay. So mostly, the second set of hands will come from my scripted things where I have different combinations and I will give them and I will see if they are able to match with each other's styles. So that's how I typically approach.
Do you find that these kind of new expert partnerships need more work in constructive bidding or competitive bidding?
Okay, so one of the pair, again, both of them were very good players. Okay, however, they have not played before and they were going to play a world championship together. Okay, so before coming to me, they have spent like a good 2 to 3 months writing down their systems. So they had close to, let's say, 40-45 pages of system notes along with them. So they already knew that what they were playing. So what I did with them was I kind of took one session on the various aspect of uncontested systems with them. So it might have major opening, minor opening, no trump opening, 2 club opening, all different types of opening, but uncontested, right? And they were doing 2 hours of drills with. In the process, kind of lot of time, certain discussion will start happening. Let's say, we have agreed to play inverted minor. So we start off with 1 diamond, 2 diamond, but the further developments, whether you should pattern out, whether you should show stopper, whether you should show shape, whether you should show your point range, right? While they had a generic agreement, they were not yet firm. So first session went around that. The second session was around when the same things opponents started interfering. So we overall did some 5 or 6 sessions covering all the way from uncontested options to, let's say, defense against known opponents bidding. Opponents opening weak no trump, opponent opening both majors weak, opponents opening multi 2 diamond, right? So stuff like that. So I generally take the partnership through all these different scenarios. Depending upon how much time they have, they invest that much time in training.
So let's say that 2 newer players, right? They're intermediate players and they decide that they're going to start a new partnership. What should they talk about?
We are talking about 2 partners coming in sync, right? So basically, it's like you first start off, let's say, an ACBL convention card, right? An ACBL convention card, once you start filling it up, you start seeing that, okay, these are the basic things that we agree that we will play together, okay? 5 card major, strong no trump, 2 club strong, whatever you agree. The next thing is, in each of them, there will be certain subsections. So let's say on major opening, do you play Jacoby 2 no trump? Do you play Drury? So your first level of work will be whatever is there in that ACBL convention card. You go into the details one level below. Let me give you an example. You and I agree to play Jacoby 2 no trump. After Jacoby 2 no trump, how do you proceed further? Do you show shortage? Do you show hand pattern? Which hands would sign off versus which hand will make some encouraging bid? Stuff like that. So you start going one level deeper and you do it in almost all the areas that are there. Now, one thing I'm going to kind of make a special point out here is between partnership, even amongst top level, one of the most least discussed is the cardings. They will, okay, let's play upside down. Do you play Smith? Yes. 3 or 4, standard honor lids. That's where the discussions ends, right? I would encourage partnership to focus more on go a level deeper. When is an attitude signal? When is it a count signal? When is it a suit preference signal? Right? So initially, first 6 to 9 months, just have kind of a minimum agreement, but go a little deeper and start forming the partnership. It almost takes like a year for both of you to kind of come in sync on what you want to play and what you do not. So for if there are two intermediate players, a very good starting point is whatever is there in that ACBL card, other than just filling it out, go one level deeper and find out, okay, what are the next bits? What do they mean? How do I sign off? Which bid is forcing? Stuff like that. That should, get you off into a good start. However, start document. If you and I are serious about forming a partnership, we need to start document on whatever we have agreed. And this document is kind of a live document. It will keep on growing. Okay, you will keep on adding. So that will be my best advice for two people who are starting out, which is spend time on whatever you agree to play, start documenting. And the most difficult areas, as I said, is your cardings, different competitive auctions, general agreement of which double means what are the good start.
So it seems to me that one of the fundamental tensions in deciding on system is what's theoretically best versus what are we going to remember, right? Is it worth having this complicated thing that is definitely better than the simple thing? But is it going to come up enough? Are we going to remember it when it does? Do you kind of have a philosophy about making those decisions?
Whatever partnership I've worked with, one thing is common, which is I have never asked anyone to add anything on what they have. Most of the time, I have asked them to delete stuff. Okay. And delete stuff not because they are wrong. There are two reasons why I have asked them to delete stuff. Number one, it doesn't come up. Number two, even if it comes up once in a while, there is a very good chance you will not remember it. So my philosophy has always been, if both the partners can remember something, same, that's the best system. I mean, I always give this example and I'm going to give it here also. Helgemo and Hellness, they won multiple world championships together. Somewhere in the archives, you will still find them. Go and have a look at their convention card. It is one of the least populated. Okay. And that's the reason is simple. They actually don't play too many complicated stuff. They focus on remembering what they play. Okay. And I have found that the best system is the one that both of you can remember. However, the reality is, so-called the most of the expert players, they want to incorporate a meaning for every possible bit. Okay. And that becomes the reason of why things, I mean, it's simple. We are assigning meanings to things which do not come up. And then both of us are struggling to remember. What did we discuss last time? What should that 3-spade bid mean? I forgot. You also probably forgot. And then we are off to a disaster. So summarize your question or answer your question. Simple agreements that both partners can remember is the best system.
Do you find that forgetting system is a significant source of errors at the expert level?
I mean, fortunately for me, the people whom I work with, they already have invested their time in coming up with things that they can remember. However, disasters still happen. Okay. So if you ask me, like say, go to a club game, the number of systemic disasters will be a lot higher. But if you are looking at teams who are playing in the quarterfinals of a spin goal, the chances of that disasters are a lot lesser. But it does not mean it is zero. Okay. So well-practiced partnership, lesser number of systemic disasters. But systemic disasters still happen.
So I know you mostly work with expert and world-class partnerships, but can an intermediate partnership get a lot out of the sort of work that you do?
Definitely yes. Okay. Whomever I work with, I basically ask one question. Are you really serious about improving? Your skill level really doesn't matter. Are you serious? I mean, I'll give an example. There is this father-son duo whom I started working, let's say a year and a half ago. Skill-wise, so let me explain, what type of skills. They would play in the national events out there, and after the Swiss League, whichever, the top 8 or the top 16s are qualifying, it was a hit and miss for them. Okay. So let's say every 1 out of 3 they would qualify, the others they would not. So that's the type of play. And they were serious about improving, and I started working with them. And we went through, it's actually not as simple, it's a long journey. Okay. But one thing that I realized was that the majority of the errors were coming because the dad, who was getting a little older, was not able to remember all the complicated stuff. So I just, had them simplify it, take it out. And once they started remembering and applying whatever they had agreed to, their improvement started. So to answer your question, can they work? Yes. Ultimately, it's just a game. It's a question of what you want to achieve out of it. So as long as you are serious in improving your game, yes. And it's not necessary that you have to come to me. As long as you are going, playing a session, coming back, discussing, see what things went down, and you are really working on it. Okay. That itself is good. That's how most of us learned. We made mistakes, we went back. So ultimately, if you are serious about improving your game and you put in your efforts, you can always improve.
Have a partnership, Sharon and I, going back 25 years. And he would give us hints or suggestions and talk about where we were focusing, and sometimes just simple rules to guide us by, to make things smoother. And everything was amazingly helpful.
And this might not be the correct rule, but opener's job is to show distribution, and responder's job is to show level. So to our system, well, I shouldn't say big changes because the structure is still there, but the details are amazing in how to think about the hands. So,
and then one of the other things he supplies afterwards is hands to practice, so we can go back.
Are there areas that you think top partnerships, like in general, need to work on?
A part of my work, and this is, because who I am, I generally at a macro level look at trends of where top level partnership gain or lose IMPs. Okay. A trend which I have been looking at or analyzing since 2015. So say last 10 years. Okay. Now, give you an example. 10 years ago, I could see that a lot of IMPs used to exchange hands because aggressive games were not bid in one table versus it was bid on the other table. So not necessarily that you are making, but let's say, I consistently bid aggressively and 6 out of those 10 makes, 4 doesn't, right? But there was considerable IMP swings on bidding conservative versus aggressive. But as I have looked at that trend at the top level over time, the last 3 to 4 years, that gap has narrowed down. What it means is previously you used to get a score like plus 170 and a 620. Nowadays, it's minus 200 and minus 200. So both tables are bidding and going down. But at the top level, people have generally shifted more towards the aggressive side. But however, few trends are still very common. Slam bidding or big IMPs lost in slam bidding. High-level competitive auctions where, let's say, it's a judgment between letting opponents play in 4 spade or doubling them versus we bidding our 5 club, right? So high-level competitive auctions. A certain amount of, and this is a combination in the sense, still there are a lot of hands where 4 spade was bid on both the tables, but one table made versus one table went down. Now, this one, I find a combination of a certain opening lead, either allowed the contract to be made or was kind of responsible, or it was a declarer play. Declarer chose a different line. So at this point of time, the top 3 if I can call it, reasons for IMP swings are slam bidding, and that's most of it. High level competitive options. Should I sacrifice? Should I not sacrifice? Should I bid my game? That's the another decision. And the third level is a combination of declarer play plus defense. From a number of hands perspective, I would say the declarer play and defense is roughly around 40% of those categories. Slam bidding will be roughly between 15 to 20%. And the high level competitive auctions are the remaining percentage. So that's the macro level trend. So if most of the experts, I work with, these I would say are the three focus areas that I find them actually working on, or if they ask me, I would suggest that these are the three things that they should work.
Declare play and opening leads, those are individual things rather than partnership things. That's not really what you tend to work on, right?
Right.
How should I work on that, right? If you say 40% of the swings are coming on declare play and opening leads, that seems like something I should work on. What should I be doing?
In declarer play, there is, literally as simple as counting, counting, and counting. Okay. 100 years ago, it was still the same thing. Even today, it is still the same thing. Right? Do continuous, and that's what experts do, right? At the top level, what they are really doing is when they are playing a hand is based on whatever the clues that are available to them in the bidding or what has happened, they are kind of reconstructing possible hands and they are playing accordingly, right? So that is an improvement which literally you have to do on yourself. And it is, the habit of counting is something, even if you go to a local club, play against two, average plus players, it's a counting that you are doing for every hand that you are playing. And it has to be almost like a muscle memory for you. Okay. So counting should automatically kind of get ingrained when you are playing any hand for that matter. Opening lead is, I find it's more of a listening skill. Listening skill in the sense, have you kind of read the auctions correctly? Okay. There are a lot of times, let's say, for example, me and my partner, we would have different opportunities during the bidding to help partnership with, say, a lead directing double, right? If both of us are awake on the table, and my partner did not make the lead directing double, that should be a clue for me. So partnership can help each other with coming up with the correct, these things. So that's opening lead. So a large part of this 40% is mostly individual in nature. So I think I will quote Bruce Lee out here. Okay. So Bruce Lee said, I do not worry about someone who has practiced 1000 kicks, but I worry about the guy who has practiced one kick 1000 times. The difference being, if you are counting and you are counting every hand that you play, right? That's the person I worry about. So counting will not come to you if you play once in a week or once in a month, because it is a continuous habit that you have to build up.
Well, that seems like a great ending point. Georgia, thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing with me and Greg. We've really benefited from it and for this great conversation.
My pleasure, Adam. And it was lovely to be here.